Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a tool that's become absolutely essential for anyone who works with software or systems, Grafana. We're going to break down what it is and why it's such a big deal. So let's get right to it. Okay, so before we even define what Grafana is, let's talk about why it even exists. Think about it. Every single application, every system you run is just spewing out this constant stream of data, right? The problem we have today isn't a lack of information, no way. The real challenge is trying to make any sense of that chaotic flood.
I mean, picture this. Your app is live, people are using it, everything looks okay from the outside. But is it really healthy? How do you know if performance is slowly getting worse? Or if some tiny error rate is starting to climb? How can you possibly be sure what's going on under the hood?
Without a tool like Grafana, this is pretty much your reality. You're just staring at a wall of text. It's this tidal wave of raw server logs and metrics. I love this analogy. It's like trying to find one specific sentence in a massive library, but all the books have been ripped apart and thrown on the floor. It's just noise, it's chaos, and spotting a real problem in there? Forget about it.
But what if? What if you could just sweep all that noise away? What if you could basically hook up an EKG to your system and see its heartbeat, its vital signs, all in real time, perfectly clear? Well, that's exactly what Grafana promises to do.
So let's get to it. What exactly is Grafana? At its heart, it's an open source tool for analytics and, most importantly, visualization. And here's a key point. Grafana doesn't actually store any of your data. Nope. Instead, it just connects to all the places your data already lives and becomes this incredible storyteller, turning raw numbers into something you can actually understand. So let's break down the basic pieces.
The first big concept you need to know is the dashboard. This is your command center, your main view. It's a single screen where you bring together all the different charts and graphs that matter for your system. The best way to think about it is like the cockpit of an airplane. Everything you need to know, all the critical info is right there in front of you.
So what are these dashboards made of? Well, they're built from something called panels. A panel is just one single visualization. It could be a graph, or a big number, or a table. So you might have one panel showing CPU usage, and right next to it another one tracking user signups, and maybe a third one counting errors. You arrange all these little panels on your dashboard to build your complete view.
Okay, this is super important. Where does Grafana get all this information? That's where the data source comes in. This is Grafana's superpower, really. It's so flexible. It can connect to tons of different systems where your data lives. Things like Prometheus for metrics, Loki for logs, or even a good old-fashioned SQL database. Grafana just reaches out, grabs the raw data it needs, and uses that to build the pretty pictures.
All right, so let's recap the flow here. We've got data sources that feed the raw numbers into individual panels, and then we arrange those panels on a dashboard. Simple enough, right? But how do you actually do that? How does the data get from a database to a beautiful graph? Well, it's actually a lot simpler than you might think.
It really just boils down to 4 main steps. First, you tell Grafana where your data is. You connect your data source. Easy. Second, you add a new blank panel to your dashboard. Third, and this is the magic part, you write a query. A query is just you asking a question of your data. Something like, hey, show me the CPU usage for the last 15 minutes. And finally, step 4, you pick how you want to see that answer. Do you want it as a line graph, a bar chart, a simple number? You choose the visualization, and bam, it appears.
Now, this whole process is part of a much bigger idea in the industry called observability. See, modern monitoring isn't just about looking at one kind of data anymore. It's about being able to truly understand what's happening inside a complex system just by looking at the data it produces. And to do that right, you really need 3 key types of data.
Yeah, people call these the 3 pillars of observability. And together, they give you the full story. You've got metrics. Those are your numbers, like CPU at 50% or 100 requests per second. Then you have logs. These are text records of events, telling you what happened at a specific time. And finally, you have traces, which are super cool. A trace follows one single user request on its entire journey through all the different microservices in your system. You absolutely need all 3 to see the whole picture.
And this is where the whole Grafana ecosystem really shines. You'll often see these 3 tools used together. You have Prometheus for metrics, which answers the question, what is happening? It'll tell you, hey, database latency just spiked. Then you have Loki for logs, which answers, why is it happening?
You'd look at the logs and see, oh, it's because this one specific query is failing over and over. And finally, there's tempo for traces, which answers where did it happen. A trace would show you exactly which part of the code or which service is the bottleneck. Grafana is the tool that brings all three of these views together in one place.
So you see, Grafana is way more than just a pretty dashboard you put up on a TV screen. It's not about passive viewing. It's an active command center. It's a tool that lets you actually take control of your system's health.
I mean, think about it. What good is all this amazing data if you have to be physically staring at the screen 24/7 to catch a problem? That's not practical. The real power comes when the system can watch itself and tell you when something's wrong. And that, of course, is where alerting comes into play.
And setting up an alert in Grafana is incredibly straightforward. You just pick any panel you've already made and you create a rule for it. You define a condition, something really simple like, hey, if the CPU goes above 80% and stays there for 5 minutes, that's a problem. Then you just tell it how to bug you. Send me an email, ping me on Slack, whatever. And just like that, you've automated your monitoring. The system is now watching itself for you.
All right, so as you start building your own dashboards, here are a few best practices to keep in mind. Definitely use variables. They let you make dynamic dashboards where you can say, switch the view between different servers with a drop-down menu. Super powerful. Keep things organized with tags, and it'll save you a headache later. And this one is critical. Don't create visual overload. A dashboard with 100 tiny graphs is just as useless as that wall of text we saw earlier. And finally, always try to bring those three pillars, metrics, logs, and traces together for that complete context.
Look, if there's one single idea to take away from all this, it's this right here. The real magic of Grafana is that it takes all of this chaotic, scattered data that's coming from everywhere, and it weaves it into a single, unified story about the health of your system. It turns noise into a narrative.
And that really brings us to a final bigger thought. Data is without a doubt one of the most valuable resources in the world today. And how we visualize it, how we understand it, that's going to define so much of our future. It's not just about collecting information anymore. It's about finding the story hidden inside. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What story does your data need to tell?